Okay, while Vance is getting the recording going, I just wanted to briefly introduce myself and other members of the Forest Business Alliance and welcome folks here today. I'm Regine Miller. I'm president of Headwaters Environmental. My company has a grant from CAL FIRE that supports the Forest Business Alliance. Other members of our team that are on this call today are Vance Russell and
I'm good.
Jim Adriance and Carrie Riney, and let's see, I think that's those are the folks there from our team today. So we're glad you guys are able to make it. Today's workshop is focused on business resources. We have a great panel of folks who will talk about some of the different business and financial resources that are available to forest businesses. Our Forest Business Alliance, it functions to help support groups and companies like yours in terms of business and workforce development, especially as it relates to CAL FIRE's wood products and bioenergy program, but also other grant programs. Our website has a variety of different resources on it, including recordings of past workshops related to business development and a whole series of templates and recordings focused on pursuit of grant funding in support of forest businesses. So check that out at your convenience. We also offer a series of ongoing workshops, of which today's workshop is part of that. And we facilitate a peer learning network. I put in the chat earlier the link to where you can register for the peer learning network. We generally have monthly meetings, the goal of that peer learning network is for folks to come together to connect, meet, and basically kind of leverage their various expertise, helps lift all businesses and organizations up. In addition, the Forest Business Alliance has a whole tribally focused part of its program, including technical assistance. We have tribally focused workshops and also a tribal peer learning network. So you can similarly sign up. Tribal members, tribal organizations, and entities can similarly engage through that part of our program on our website. I think with that, why don't we go ahead and get started today? We have our panelists. Vance will introduce folks here shortly. And each panelist will give a presentation, then we'll open it up for Q&A and hopefully have a good, robust discussion about some of the resources and helping folks to figure out how to tie into those. So with Vance, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Regine, and welcome everybody. We're really excited about this workshop. We've been focusing a lot on grants and grant programs, as well as technical assistance to folks. And we haven't really talked about non-grants. As Regine mentioned, we kind of do both top-down technical assistance, but also bottoms-up, like peer learning through the peer learning network, where folks are learning from each other rather than from outside experts. So that's kind of the focus of the Forest Business Alliance, but also a lot of businesses and nonprofit success is based on intangibles like that aren't related to grants. And it's about strategy, it's about developing workforce, it's about other things like tax credits and working with the different state agencies and other federal agencies that offer things besides funding. So we're really excited to introduce this topic too, and we'll provide some of these resources. We have, as Regine mentioned, we have a website. We also have a guidebook that's focused on getting you up to speed on grants, program development, and some of these resources. We'll add these to one of the chapters in that guide. So without further ado, I'm going to start introducing each of the panel members. Really appreciate you all volunteering and taking part in this panel. Your expertise and the diversity of your backgrounds is really great here. And it's really going to be really interesting, exciting to hear from you. So hopefully when I introduce you, it's not a surprise, but just to kind of give you a heads up, we're going to start with Elise, followed by Lauren, and then Nina. Erik's going to follow Nina. Lisa, you're going to be after Erik, and then we'll end up with Jess. So hopefully that all makes sense. There's no particular order to that other than well, there's no particular order. Anyway, so thanks again, everybody. And we'll start with Elise. I'll bring up the slides in just a sec, but Elise is an economic development analyst with the with Employment Training Panel. She's in the Greater Bay Area, North Coastal region. Sorry, I'm just going to mute this person here. And you know, before I met Elise, I didn't even know the Employment Training Panel existed. But when we spoke, I got super excited. I was like, "This is awesome! This is really amazing." So I hope you know, more of you learn about ETP if you don't know about it. And with that, I'll hand it over to her. Elise, it'll take me just a sec to share this and then go into presentation mode, and hopefully you all can see that.
All right, thank you, Vance and Regine and the Force Business Alliance. I'm happy to present today and get to connect with you all and see about any partnership opportunities with our funding. We're really looking, forward to funding job skills training for workers in mills and timber harvesting and forestry-related manufacturing ecosystems. And we're actually also working with CAL FIRE and their business and workforce development grants opportunities, and in order to support and expand the great work that they're doing with that too. In any way that we could form interagency agreements or leverage support, we aim to do that. And I'll begin by just giving a high-level overview about what ETP is, what it is that we do in our contract models, and then just naming a couple examples of our contracts. ETP is a department within the Labor and Workforce Development Agency, and it's led by an 8-person panel, and they approve the applications into contracts. And that's different from who we are as the ETP staff. We at the staff level have 4 regional offices across California. In North Hollywood, in San Diego, in San Francisco, in Sacramento. And between the 4 regional offices, we cover the whole state. And I specifically am part of the economic development unit, and we do a lot of outreach, we do a lot of engagement and application support. I also wanted to mention my colleague Jordan Fetch is here, and he is covering the eastern part of Northern California, whereas I cover the western and coastal parts, and together we are here to answer, your questions and provide support if you're interested in this funding opportunity. Some major things just from the get-go, I want to say that ETP does not do. We don't provide training. We don't mandate training topics for employers, and we don't select or approve trainers. We really rely on the business owner to know what's best for their workers as far as training topics and as far as who needs to get trained and what goals they are trying to accomplish to stay in California, to remain competitive in California, and to expand their business. Now, our department, even though you may not have heard of us, we've been around a while. We've been around since 1982, and we were originally established in order to address the sudden impact of layoffs during the recession. And we were created as a business incentive, and we remain that way. So California businesses can reskill, upskill their workers for needed jobs and making our state economy steady in a downturn and competitive with other states in an upturn. So to get to the contracting model, ETP has two basic contracting models. The single employer, where an ETP eligible employer, they're paying the employment training tax. Oh, you know what? I just wanted to mention, I think the slide is showing the Small Business Development Center as opposed to, yeah, the first one, which is, it has our contact info. So I just wanted to show
that.
No problem, no problem.
Yeah, and I don't know, Vance, on the Zoom screen, it's showing the left sidebar, if you can enlarge it so it's the larger view. Or the down there at the bottom of the, yeah, that also works.
Thanks.
Can everybody see that okay?
There's an option to put it in presentation mode if you go down to the very, very bottom of the window, that little tiny, it's not the zoom function.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, that's perfect.
You got it. Yes.
Looks nice. And I just put a star by Jordan's name and my name because we are the people who are here today from the Employment Training Panel, Economic Development Unit, and are the first point of contact for anyone who wants to know more about us. So the single employer contract model, an eligible ETP employer paying the employment training tax, that's part of the unemployment insurance contribution paid to EBD. Now, so most of our contracts are this type, directly with employers, and we target industries that contribute to a competitive economy, which include manufacturing, engineering, energy, clean technology, construction, biotech, healthcare, IT. There's one of our contracts I wanted to highlight is Digital Path Inc. They were awarded $380,000 to train 200 tech installers and project leads and customer service reps in Chico. The company services rural parts of the North State, and they bring internet to residents who would otherwise not have the service. So in their first project, they had a couple contracts with ETP because they had different training goals. So in their first project, the training was focused on new products and marketing and selling services and customer service training to help engage and retain clients. And in their other project, they were focusing on developing and manufacturing the communication components, as well as repairing cell towers. So these investments were directly linked to expansion and job creation in the broadband technology. So ETP partners with companies like this to extend the impact of other programs, such as the CAL FIRE grants. And we leverage those specific investments as a strategy to engage more employers, expand the network, have more industry sectors and worker populations supported. Now, the second model for an ETP contract is the multiple employer contract, or as we refer to it as MEC, M-E-C, and they aggregate the training needs to train and place job seekers. And the MEC allows an employer a quick path on the way to training and course selection and doing the trainers, the delivery method and the scheduling. They're all take that onus off of the employer and do it themselves in service of the employer. Now, examples of this include Chamber of Commerce, training agencies, economic development corporations, and community colleges. Now, an example of one of our contractors that was a MEC, and it was recently approved. It's a very innovative model. It's the Butte County Office of Education, and we plan to fund $370,000 for roughly 110 trainees. In this contract, their headquarters are in Oroville, and they offer a variety of education programs for the career and technical training. And they're really innovative because they're focusing on the back to work transitional employment program for underserved and disadvantaged adults statewide. And the employees will be employed by employment social enterprises across California during the duration of training. And then upon completion of the training, the trainees will be placed into employment with the Butte County Office of Education's Registered Apprenticeship Program partners. And the occupations that will be trained will be cybersecurity, support technicians, automotive technicians, machine operators, and food service workers. So that is such a great opportunity for the smaller businesses and people who don't know much about ETP but want to dip their toes into ETP and see how it goes, can participate on a multiple employer contractor like this. And we can let you know there are others out there, and we offer the connections for them. So I think I'll stop there. I just, you have our contact info up on the screen, and I'm open for any questions and answers. Myself and Jordan Fetch are here to address any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Elise. I think we'll take questions at the end, but
Sounds good.
if folks have questions, definitely hold those for Elise. We'll move on. But thanks for that really great intro, and definitely want to hear more as we move along. There we go. So if you guys hear any yapping in the background, or you see me moving around, I've got a puppy that I'm taking care of, or that we just got. And so if you do want, like, midway through this, a cute puppy interlude, I'm happy to provide that as well. But I'll mostly keep myself on mute as we go along. So I'm going to introduce Lauren Nikkel now, who's with the Fresno EDC. And the EDC is a powerhouse in the county, both for business development, but also they're doing a lot in the wood and forest health arena already. So they're doing some really amazing work there. So Lauren, thanks for joining us, and I'll hand it over to you to do your introduction.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for sitting here with me. As Vance has said, I'm Lauren Nikkel. I serve as the Director of Business Services here at the Fresno County EDC. That's Economic Development Corporation, not the Electric Daisy Carnival. That does get confused sometimes for those of you who are into EDM music. I've been on the staff here since January of this year. But my background has been in workforce development. Special place in my heart for forest businesses. Fun fact about me is that I wrote a CAL FIRE workforce and business development grant in my previous position with the workforce board here in the county that was awarded $1.9 million in 2022. So it's good to be on the resource sharing side, the technical assistance side, working with folks like Vance and everybody at the Forest Business Alliance. What I'm going to talk about today is what is an EDC and what can it do to support your enterprise. As mentioned, an EDC is an Economic Development Corporation. Most cities, counties have something like this that exists as part of their infrastructure. You might have an economic development department through your city, your metro area. Your county might have an economic development department, or you might have an EDC, which is a nonprofit corporation that does economic development work on behalf of a specific locality. For us here in Fresno County, we have contracts with 14 cities here in the center of the state to provide economic development assistance. And all my fancy bullet points here talk about what those are. In our metro area in Fresno and Clovis, we have very robust economic development departments that live with the city. We complement that work as part of the county. And then for our smaller rural localities, we serve as the front lines for economic development. So what are some of the business development resources that an EDC or an EDO can provide for you? One of these things is site selection assistance. You might have a location that you've been in for a number of years that you love, very dear to your heart, but perhaps you've gotten a workforce or business development grant from CAL FIRE and now you've outgrown your location. Your local EDC is a good resource for you. There will be people on the staff there who can help identify available properties that have the site specifications that you need. If it's certain square footage, if it's wattage that you need to power your building, other things like that. Somebody at your EDC, likely in your business retention department, will kind of be your boots on the ground for that. We have 2 staff here in the Fresno County house that kind of work with that specific sort of site selection assistance. They can help connect you to the brokers, the landowners, see what they can do to get you secured in a new location. Incentive programs is another thing that your EDC can kind of support you with. I know for us here in Fresno County, there are a handful of workforce development programs, subsidized employment programs that employers can leverage. We are actually the contractor for a wage reimbursement program through the County of Fresno. It's called the NEO program, NEO. That's New Employment Opportunities, not Keanu Reeves NEO, but our NEO. What this is a wage subsidy program that is helmed by the County of Fresno to find employers who are looking to hire folks who are currently on some level of cash aid, CalWORKs, with at least 1 child in the home. These are folks who are trying to re-enter the workforce, develop some work history, and we work to make matches between that population and local employers who are looking to keep people in high growth industry jobs. Wood business is one of those. We work with a sawmill up in the foothills to help place folks from the DSS population with employment opportunities up there. I would be happy to talk to you more about that partnership with the sawmill offline. It's one that we're very, very excited to be a part of. The employers who are enrolled in this wage subsidy program receive up to 100% of the wages, fringe benefits for anybody who they hire from the DSS population. That's 100% for the first 3 months. It can be extended at lower percentages up to a full year, as long as there's some element of on-the-job training, work-based learning that's going on there. Some other incentive programs that exist that I encourage you to tap people for, depending on who your provider is for your electricity, PG&E or SoCalGas, they have small business resource teams. If you're in the Fresno County area, please scan this QR code that's on my slide and get in touch with me so I can connect you with the folks we work with here. A couple other things that EDCs do, infrastructure support and development planning. If you are looking to expand your enterprise, you need a new permit, new construction, CapEx, something like that. Your local EDC can work with your city planning departments to help expedite that process. Other small business support can be securing loans, other investment options, and grants as well. If you are looking for creative financing, I know for us here in Fresno County, we are working with impact accounting, tying business outcomes to a scorecard that's based on not just economic good, but community good. And then there's venture capital that is tied in with that. There are many ways to finance enterprise. It does not just have to be a traditional loan, and your EDC will know who those flexible financing partners are. Market research and data analytics. I'm going to talk about these two together. When you are preparing a grant, if you are asking for a loan and you want to know what kind of economic impact your enterprise has, your Economic Development Corporation can furnish you with that information by looking at labor market data and lots of other AI-enabled platforms and analytics. We have 2 or 3 that we use here and have 2 research analysts on the staff that can help furnish businesses with more information about what the market trend looks like, who's hiring, what kind of skills do you need to fill your positions. And then also provide you with research and statistics if you're applying for a grant. And then larger and more broader partnerships and networking opportunities. You can see on my slide, our slogan at Fresno County EDC is growing the California dream. But unofficially, we like to call ourselves the essential connection. If we don't operate the program in here that in-house that could be a good fit for you, we will know the people who do. Happy to see the folks from ETP on the call today. Jordan and I were just together in Visalia last week at a business attractions and retention conference in Visalia. We've got one foot in private sector and in public sector, and working to make those connections together for the overall economic health and vitality of the county here. And I know for us, even though we're in the Central Valley, we deal with the impacts of forest and fuels mitigation and wildfires every summer. And we know that there is a dearth of opportunity for folks here to be able to have good careers in the forestry sector, and that there is financing and other options that are coming along for municipalities to help fight these things and also put folks into good jobs and revitalize our economy in the process. So all of that said, regardless of where you're located today, highly recommend that you look into the Economic Development Corporation or organization for your specific city and county. They will be a great resource for you as you decide to expand your business, hire, make new decisions as we kind of walk forward. If you are in Fresno County, please contact me. I would love to meet you and talk to you. This industry has a really special place in my heart. And I would be really excited to answer questions when we get to that point in time in this presentation.
Thanks so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on to Nina. Nina is the Regional Business Development Specialist for Business Investment Services, also known as CalBIS. And I'm going to try to, oh, there we go. Okay. And I'll hand it over to you, Nina, to take it from there. Thanks.
Okay, yes, it's always a mouthful introducing myself. Got to get all those words in there and the acronyms. So hello, everyone. My name is Natina. I reside in the far north state. I live in Shasta County in the city of Redding. So I have a map here that shows kind of how we in CalBIS break up our territories. But before I go into that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about where CalBIS lives within GoBiz, in case there is anybody on here who's not familiar with what GoBiz is. GoBiz is the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, and the GoBiz mission is to serve as the state of California's point of contact for job growth, economic development, and business assistance efforts. So on a daily basis, I'm meeting with economic development partners in region and talking with businesses who are navigating, starting, landing, expanding, growing, and even having trouble staying in our state of California. You can see that my region is this orange and green section. I cover 14 counties in the North State, and I have counterparts who do my same job across the regions throughout the rest, going south. So if anybody isn't in this North State area and you want to follow up, I'd be happy to connect you with my counterparts in those other regions. CalBIS, or Business Investment Services, supports the GoBiz mission in a few ways. The first and kind of the big one is incentive navigation. So as you can tell, Vance mentioned at the beginning, you have talked a lot about grants, but that's not the only thing available to assist businesses. Although everybody wants those first, right? We know that. So beyond that, what else is there? They're not always available. You might have missed an application window, right? There's just so much going on. There are a lot of different incentives that the state has to offer through its various agencies, and we are a first point for having that conversation. We're not experts usually in the incentives themselves because there are so many, but we have a good enough understanding of what is available, and then we can get you contacted with those program administrators for each of those programs. The second is site selection. Lauren was just talking about this, and if you're already in California and you're in a region and you're looking for a site, then it makes sense to go with an EDC. Our office is talking to businesses who are coming from out of state, from out of country sometimes, or even businesses that aren't really sure yet where in California they want to be. So we can help them start to narrow that down, the site selection. And we work hand in hand with our economic development partners like the Fresno EDC to get those lists of sites that we then turn back over to the business. The third thing I have here is connecting with other state agencies. So this is big, the government's a big place. I mean, even in CalBIS, it's a big place, and we're just one agency office within, thousands and thousands of people who work for the state of California. So we can be, again, a point of contact for businesses to make those networks and make those contacts deeper into different agencies. It never hurts to ask. We're well connected. We talk to our interagency partners often, so we can be that resource for you. Last thing that I do want to mention in terms of support is permitting assistance. That's not something I particularly do, but we have an office of permit assistance. And if you are a business who is struggling to understand or struggling to get answers from either state agencies or local jurisdictions around permitting, if you want to understand timelines for how long things will take to bring a project to fruition, that's where our permit specialists can kind of come alongside, get involved in the conversation, ask you questions, try to understand what's going on, and then help in any way they can. I want to talk for a moment now about incentives and what we mean by that. So I will go through several incentives, but before I talk about each of those incentives at a high level, I want to kind of layer in to this a few factors to consider when you're looking at applying for these programs. So one is timing. A lot of and timing for you and timing for us. So a lot of our programs have application windows, right? And they're only open for a certain amount of time at certain times of year. Those are things you're going to want to understand so that you can be prepared when the application window does open. And then timing on your end as a business owner, is it too soon to apply for that, right? You kind of got to figure things out, have your strategy in place so that you're ready to take this on when that opportunity is available. The next is short-term versus long-term goals. So what are you trying to achieve right now? What are you trying to achieve 3 to 5 years from now, 10 years from now, right? And having those kinds of things on your horizon. If you're in panic mode and you need something now, that's an indicator that that's going to be hard to find a resource that's going to meet your need right away. And I mean, we all know that, especially government takes a long time. It takes a long time to do things. You might apply in the winter and you don't even hear about the award until summer or fall potentially. So those are things to understand. And then packaging programs together, not just thinking about getting this one thing, but being creative about, okay, we applied for this last year and got it. What can I now build on? How can I use those funds possibly to leverage other funds and programs? Those are great ways to approach these kinds of incentives. And then the last thing I want to say on just this overview is that we have different incentives that are focused on maybe the phase of business you're in, or the activity that you're doing, or the industry that you're in. So that's another layer of complication as you look through all of these incentives, just the few that I'm going to mention today, and then the plethora and the ones that don't even exist yet that we'll see in the future as new legislation happens. So firstly, I want to talk about CalCompetes. Some of you might be familiar with that. California Competes Tax Credit is a kind of a big name. It's a flagship CalBIS incentive program. It's a 5-year income tax credit available to businesses who want to relocate to California or who want to locate in California. Businesses of any size can apply for this, any industry, any location, and they're competing for usually over $180 million in tax credits. And this is one of those where it has application windows that are open 3 times a year. There's, I think, a list of 14 factors that you're evaluated on with this application. It's a pretty hefty lift. And a big part of this is how many jobs you're creating and how many jobs you're bringing to California. So with this program, there's regular webinars, there's a whole web page and websites dedicated to this CalCompetes program. If you want more information, I'm happy to send it or set up a conversation with you to get some initial information to you and then connect you with the program administrator, if that makes sense. There's another incentive that's similar in its requirement. It's called the Utility Economic Development Rate, or EDR program. So that is offered by our investor-owned utilities like PG&E, SoCal Edison. And this program is designed to give you an electricity or, on your electric bill, a discount of anywhere between 12 and 20% for 5 years. You do have to be in a specific industry. So manufacturing, processing, industrial, distribution. Think of big companies that are typically using a lot of power. It's available to anybody who can make the business case that, but for having this discount, we will not be able to locate in California. On the flip side, if you are in one of those industries and you're actually at risk of shutting down, then this could also work for you. If you're able to make that business case that we might not be able to keep the lights on, literally.
Just another minute.
Okay, thank you. Few other, there are incentives that are designed to support research and development. There are incentives to help cut the sales and use tax that you're paying to the state on your equipment purchases. I will throw links in for some of these things, just so I know we're running short on time. You already heard about ETP from Elise. The last thing I want to mention here is financing programs. The state has a lot of different financing programs, and one in particular has a long name, Climate Catalyst Revolving Loan Fund. It does have a focus on forest biomass management and utilization. So that's an example of where that specific industry is being called out. I'll put my information, I have my email there, but I'll put it in the chat for anybody who wants to follow up, and happy to answer questions when we get there.
Thanks so much, Nina. We'll put these slides in the meeting recording as well and share those with folks too. So we're going to move on to Lisa Hoveman, who's the Director of Apprentice Programs at Shasta College. And if I'm not, I might be wrong, but I think Shasta College is one of the first business and workforce development training programs, among a couple of others that in the state when some of the business and workforce grants started up. We're gonna we're gonna skip Erik because I don't see him in the meeting. So if he joins, I think he was traveling and had to call in, so I'm not sure if he's unable to call in. But with that, I'll hand it over to Lisa for you to do your introduction. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, thanks, Vance. Like Vance said, my name is Lisa Hoveman. I'm the Director of Apprenticeship Programs at Shasta College. We have a logging and forestry apprenticeship program, which is one of the first, not only in California, but in the nation. It's been years in development, but it's a great talent and recruitment pipeline, which I think is what serves businesses most. Speaking about funding and alternative resources for organizations that are either involved with or looking to expand within the forest health sector, I would consider the educational institutions as sort of a training provider, whether that's through certificate or degree programs. For example, we have a forest science and technology associate's degree, also a natural resources associate's degree. You'll see on the slide that we have a heavy equipment logging operations program, which is a pre-apprenticeship for our logging apprenticeship. It's a semester long. Students are getting seat time in equipment out in the woods in a real life working environment, providing a great opportunity for their development and also a recruitment pipeline for businesses that are looking to hire, are looking to expand, are looking to find entry-level employees that they don't necessarily have to pay $40 to $50 an hour, but do want to give them experience and kind of build upon what they've already developed. This picture here is actually a great example. This summer, we hosted the first ever intensive training. We invited employees from all over the state of California to come up to our our land in Shingletown, California, and get 50 hours of seat time in a piece of equipment they otherwise probably wouldn't have been able to through their current employer or lack of training environments offered within the state of California. And it's just a great example of the innovative solutions we can provide for upskilling or retraining within this sector. And then our forestry and natural resources program and faculty members partner really closely with Sierra Pacific Industries. They go on field trips and replant out in the field, get that hands-on experience. And so I think that's where the education piece comes in, is being that training provider, taking feedback from industry members, local organizations, and saying, hey, where's the training? What's necessary? Where's the shift in the workforce for this sector? And how can we address it as a training provider in an educational institution? And that's kind of, I think, where we excel. Kind of touching on the other presenters, we, as an educational institution, we rely on grant funding a lot as well. But in addition to that, I think it was Nina who said packaging things together is what brings a really good, incentive and motivation to make things work. And so as Shasta College, we recently became a MEC ourselves to host training opportunities for local organizations and employers. We partner and are in constant communication with our local EDC for opportunities. Hey, who's coming to town? Who's building a plant? What training can we provide for them and anticipate the workforce needs that they're going to have once they do, settle down in our local community? And another thing is we partner closely with our workforce boards. They have a lot of funding that you can implement with your programs and your organizations. Specifically for our apprenticeship, each apprentice that signs on, whether that's for our logging, and we also have an accounting apprenticeship, we sign the business and the apprentice up within our workforce boards, and wage reimbursement is available. There are funding streams for supplies, whether that's work boots or nursing scrubs. It doesn't matter what sector there is, there's an opportunity to find supplemental funding to kind of help you progress and expand. And in addition to that, we offer worksite learning courses, which is, hours performed for credits on sites and things like that, and facilitate with employers. We kind of act, I call myself a matchmaker. I'm trying to get what the business needs and also find the apprentice or intern the opportunity to get work experience within their field of study, specifically within forest health and logging. And I think that's where we really excel is packaging those things together, getting innovative about, we might not have all of the funding, but where can we pull from to make it all a collective effort to reach the goal that we're trying to get, whether that's training, additional funding, things in a variety of natures. And so we kind of pride ourselves on working as a team. We can't do it alone, especially in a rural area. And so I'm a one-man team for apprenticeship. So I rely heavily on our industry partners and our local organizations such as the EDC or ETP. And we utilize our community and contract ed a lot for local employers that are looking for training because it's low cost. ETP can help supplement that funding for wages, and we can offer funding for that instructor in order to provide training to whether that's a whole office organization, a specific department. There are ways to get it done. And so if you are a business owner or involved in an organization that's looking for help of that sort, I recommend reaching out to your local community college to see what they can do and how they can assist. My contact information is on this slide. I could talk on and on about all of this, but feel free to reach out to me. I can set up individual meetings with you. I'm always happy to share. And all of our resources that we share can only help us, do better and be better. So I appreciate everyone's time.
Thanks, Lisa. We'll have more
Of
time
course.
to talk and add to that with questions, but I really like your point about integrating workforce with business development. That's critical and something that needs to happen as much as possible. It's great to have that integration just across EDCs,
Yep.
community colleges and businesses and actually nonprofits as well.
Yep, absolutely.
So with that, I'm gonna turn. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. That is the wow. Okay. There we go. I was in the right place. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jess Carr, who is the Sierra Business Development Center director for the Sierra. She's based out of the Sierra Nevada. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up stuff.
It's okay. I can do the acronym soup if you want me
She's
to.
based out of the Sierra Business Council. So sorry, Jessica, I totally butchered that, but welcome, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. And I have been in this organization for 8 years, and it is still a little bit like, wait, Sierra Business. Okay. So I'm the director of the Sierra Small Business Development Center, which is a program hosted by Sierra Business Council. So I work for Sierra Business Council. We have a number of projects that involve climate and energy, government affairs, and economic empowerment. And the program that I'm here to represent today is the Small Business Development Center, which up here on the screen is the Sierra SBDC, who I am the director of. But I think on this call, there are folks from all across the state. So I just want to note that small business development centers cover every county. They cover the entire United States. And especially within the state of California, we work very collaboratively across all of our centers to make sure that businesses are being served. So the primary task of a small business development center is to provide one-on-one, no-cost business advising to all types of businesses and entrepreneurs, startups included. And we assist businesses with that no-cost advising to help them start, grow, and achieve capital. So there are a lot of really amazing resources on this. Sorry, something just fell on my desk on this call. And I know that that can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming. And like everyone else on this call, I just want to echo that the SBDC is here to help you point person across lots of different resources that are available. So don't get stuck in overwhelm. Use some of these links and websites to really, tap into the amazing resources that we all have. So the SBDC, just to keep going in acronym soup land, is primarily funded by the Small Business Administration, the SBA, and the state of California through the California Office of the Small Business Advocate, which is part of CalBIS. So we are very grateful to receive funding from those really strong partners. And through those partners, we are able to offer our services for free, no cost to the businesses. So in the Sierra SBDC and across Northern California, we have a lot of advisors who help, especially with forest businesses or anybody in the forestry space. We obviously have a very rural territory, as you can see by the 7 counties that I cover, that have a really strong industry in the forestry, a really strong economy in the forestry industry. So all of our advisors are pretty well versed. We also offer courses, most of which are free, and many of them are recorded, and they cover a wide range of topics. So anything from cash flow, marketing, HR, sales, hiring, starting, permitting, licensing, all of that, we are happy to help. So that was a fast and quick overview. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that was sort of the gist of the SBDC, and thanks for having me.
You're muted, Vance.
Thanks, Jess. Really appreciate that. If I'm not mistaken, some of the courses that you've run have been oversubscribed, right? Especially the kind of forest business focused ones. Is that correct?
Yeah, so another program that Sierra Business Council is running right now is through the Good Jobs Challenge from the Economic Development Administration, and it's for forest entrepreneurship. So we have multiple cohorts. The first cohort was in person in Nevada City. The next cohort was virtual, and then now we're running kind of a boot camp style. So it's actually happening this weekend in Mammoth. Saturday and Sunday, and I'm happy to drop information in there in case anyone here is in Mammoth or wants to travel there tomorrow to attend the workshop. And they are free. The one in Mammoth is not sold out. Our virtual one and our one in Nevada City did sell out. And then we will have another one in Sonora and another one in Auburn later this year. So these are the boot camp style ones are a lot of instruction in a short period of time, designed to be in person and really to walk. These are focused entirely on forest-based businesses And it's to walk through the process of starting and also growing your business. So there is a lead instructor, but he is bringing in resources in government contracting, for example. That's one of our primary focuses, to help forest-based businesses to succeed. So I'll drop all of that info in the chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. So with that, we'll open up the floor to folks that have questions. Anybody want to jump in?
And feel free to put them in the chat too.
Sure, I have a question.
ahead,
I can jump in. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, it's me. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Want to go back to Elise Candelaria regarding training. So I didn't understand everything that was presented. This has been kind of a lot of information in a short period of time. So please help me understand. So I'm going to set up a small biomass processing business, and I'm going to need to get trained personnel to drive forklifts and to operate loaders. So I'm wondering what training would be available for those. Elise, did I understand that if I find a training program that perhaps your program would be able to fund my employees participating in that program? Is that correct?
It's true. It's up to you what you think is best for the training for those employees, whether it's a foreman lead who will do the training internally, that it can be presented on your application and approved at panel, and we will fund that. Or likewise, if you find a training entity such as a community college or an agency and you would prefer to use their services, a third-party trainer, that is what we will fund too. You put them on your application as a subcontractor, and yeah, you come to us, you lay it all out on the application, and we will approve both ways.
Okay, thank you. And then similar question for Natina, CalBIS. What was the, or excuse me, it's a different question. What was the program you mentioned, Nina, for financing for wood product development?
I will put a link in the chat because it's a big name. But maybe we talk more because financing is such a big undertaking, right? It really matters what you're using the money for, when you need it, all those pieces. And I usually recommend folks to start local, like Lauren said, like where do you have those relationships already with lenders and banks? That's really a good place to start. But I will put what I mentioned into the chat, and I'm happy to have another conversation with you after this if you'd like.
Very good. Okay.
Well,
thank you. Those were my questions.
So I just noticed Erik is on the line, or he's joined the call now. Carrie and Curtis, if you could hold those questions for a sec. And Erik, if you don't mind doing your intro now, that would be awesome. Erik, are you there? If not, we'll go back to questions. Maybe he's still having difficulty.
Can you hear me?
So Curtis, I think you were next.
No,
and then
Erik,
we'll go
sorry, Vance, to interrupt. Erik, we can't hear you.
oh,
You can't? Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
oh,
Perfect,
Erik,
perfect.
hey, we can hear you now. So Erik is the owner of the National Logistics Team, which is a pallet company based in Riverside. We met several months ago, and I was amazed that Erik was wanting to source wood locally. He was kind of looking at like more regionally, but then they've pivoted to want to build a mill closer or in at their pallet manufacturing site. So I thought Erik was a really great example of a company that is working in the space that is in a more traditional space, but wants to source more local wood from California. With that, Erik, I'll hand it over to you. And if you could mention any kind of incentives or benefits that are non-grant based that your company's benefited from, that would be fantastic too.
Yes, absolutely. And well, I appreciate the invitation as well. Thank you for that. So a little bit about myself. I started the company National Logistics Team in 2013. 60% of our business is brand new pallets. 30% would be recycled pallets, and then 10% would be to the construction industry, building the houses. And our overall 5-year plan is to be able to develop a 40,000 square foot facility, utilize the lumber that we can get from the U.S. Service in the Big Bear Forest area, basically local to our organization, to be able to make pallets off of them, mulch for the cities, and also utilize that lumber to be able to provide that to the contractors throughout our region in Southern California. But with that being said, we want to be 100% clean environment where we're utilizing every single bit of waste. If there's any at 5%, we think that we'll utilize that as mulch. Even if we need to be able to partner up with the cities to be able to do that for the playgrounds or whatnot. But that's definitely our 5-year plan.
Cool. Thanks, Erik. So, Curtis, I think you had the next question. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So this is kind of a question for the workforce development crowd. One thing that my community really struggles with when it comes to a lot of these funding things, I'm in Susanville. So we're at a pretty severe deficit when it comes to professional services. And so, pursuing grants and things like this are a fairly heavy lift, considering we don't have staff and we don't have like a robust EDC, and we don't really have anything like that services businesses. So when I'm trying to help local businesses expand their footprint and pursue grants, one thing that we lack is like somebody that can help us write grants, or, we don't even have a grant writer. I don't think there's one that exists in the county. And so the question is, could workforce development money pay for a grant writer for the region? Because I think that would go a long way, and at least starting, we don't even have like a department. The government doesn't fund economic development. We have an economic development director that just got hired at the city, but that's one position in the city for a county that's pretty large, third largest county, I think, in the state. So that's the question.
Curtis, if you're asking about CAL FIRE or Forest Services money, I haven't seen any grants that fund grant writers from them, but there are other organizations, especially foundations, that can and do fund that kind of thing. It's harder funding to come by just because it tends to be sort of on the operating side. But the first, and I'm gonna kind of let Lisa, maybe Kim Carr, take over from me after I have this thought. But one thought that occurred to me is kind of looking across regions or counties for groups, RCDs, or even nonprofits that do have that capacity. That might be the way to go. It's harder to find in some cases, but just to your north, there's the folks that are working in the Bernie Hat Creek area have a lot of grant writing experience, for instance. So that might be a collaboration that is worth looking into. Lisa or Kim or others, any thoughts or ideas there?
I know. If we're talking specifically about grant writing assistance, Do you have a workforce board that represents you, Curtis? I don't know if SMART or the Job Training Center reaches to Susanville.
I don't think so. We might have Nortec that kind of works with Alliance for Workforce Development, but I'm not sure
Nortec,
how,
yeah.
yeah,
And
I'm not sure
SMART
how
is kind
involved
of
they are.
yeah. I mean, they're very proficient in writing grants. I know in the past, just as a community college organization, we've hired consultants as well if you
Mhm.
have the funding.
Yeah,
And similar to you is sometimes we don't have the bandwidth and just have to say no, but I can understand, like, those are the options we've used when we're like, we really want to get after this project and get this funding,
mhm.
is to just find an expert around you or near you, whether that's via Zoom or not, to kind of give you that extra assistance if you don't have the staff capacity and bandwidth to do so. I don't know
Okay.
how helpful that is. You've probably heard it before.
Yeah,
But that's,
that's
yeah,
generally the answer
yeah,
out here in the North State is good luck, so.
yeah. Well, and I mean, Susanville isn't too far. I mean, Shasta College serves the Bernie Intermountain area. So there could be an avenue through our community ed or contract education where we can partner alongside you. But if
Yeah,
you
I've
reach
grabbed
out
your
to me,
contact info. We
yeah,
can chat about it.
yeah,
Thank
I
you.
can try and get you connected with someone. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Harry, any thoughts there as well?
Yeah, sorry, my question was on a different topic, but I think that's good. That's a good recommendation, is to reach out to other folks in the region who have a lot of grant writing experience. And yeah, getting grant funding to hire a grant writer is pretty tough. But the question I had was actually related to a question that Magdalena had put in the chat, and it was related to Shasta College's traditional ecological knowledge. And I just wondered if there's any sort of additional information that you could share, both about the tech offerings at Shasta College, and also sort of related, is just wondering if Shasta College connects with or works with any other community colleges around forestry certification programs. I know that Yuba College is putting one together, and wondered if you coordinate with them on some of your offerings.
Yeah, and I think most of that goes through the faculty members because they're coordinating with curriculum and things of that nature. I know that they work closely with Humboldt County and now Cal Poly Humboldt to align our degrees for a bachelor's opportunity. And I can say with almost certainty that Melissa Marquis, she's our head natural resources instructor, partners closely, probably with Yuba and with Mendocino in the past. I'm kind of on the outskirts of the curriculum side of things in terms of enrollment and for-credit programs, but know just enough to be dangerous. So if you have additional questions, I can always pass those along and get the nitty-gritty details for you.
I have a question for Nina and Lauren, since Lauren, you're in the southern part of the state. Nina, you covered pretty much the whole northern part of the state. I'm curious what you've seen as kind of key, kind of critical things for success of businesses. Doesn't have to necessarily be forest-based businesses, but if it is, that's a bonus.
That's a big question. Do you want to go first, Lauren?
No, you can go, and then I'll piggyback. We got this.
So, man, yeah, it's a huge question. Before coming to the state, I worked for a women's business center, and prior to that was with an SBDC. So that, it comes down to grit, I think, in some cases, like stick-to-itiveness and planning. I worked with a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs who wanted to get started, who had an idea, but really hadn't done the homework to understand if there was a market there, or if there was a need, or people would pay enough to make it worth it so that you could have a profit to afford your employees and live, pay yourself. So yeah, that's a big question. One of the learnings I took from the years of advising businesses was looking for a grant to get your business started typically didn't work. I didn't ever see that really work. So there was some education that we always were trying to get out there around what the role of a grant is. It really should be to help you expand into a new area or to try something different, right? It shouldn't be you're depending on that revenue for your existence. Now, if you're a nonprofit, it's a different story, right? But as a for-profit private sector business, typically grants aren't what's going to keep you going unless you're in some kind of niche area. With forestry and in this industry, equipment can be a really big deal. So understanding and educating yourself on what it means to take out a loan and how to get loan ready was a big area of learning for a lot of business owners, just to understand how much down payments required, what kind of eligibility I'm going to be, needing to get myself ready for to be able to apply for loans, even what other sources of funding besides the traditional lending and financings out there. So, man, I could talk all day about this, but let me stop there.
No, it's I'm going to kind of put on my workforce development and my economic development hat to talk about this a little bit. I know in previous positions that I've had, what makes a big difference is partnership with both private and public agencies. Specifically, there was a program that I worked with that was giving folks job training in the logging industry. And it was reflected back to us that while it's great for us to make programs that will help CAL FIRE fill their staff, there's a lot of private logging companies who need people to work kind of strange hours, to operate heavy machinery. And that there's actually a pretty great niche for folks who are in private business to help skill people and to fill the gap that's there. Not everybody is going to be able to get on with CAL FIRE or the Forest Service. So who are the employers who can give people good jobs? That's, the project that's happening up through the Foundation of California Community Colleges, and making this, an industry where people can have a good career. And I think when we've been talking with folks in forest sector businesses, these are people who are place-based, love this community, realize there's folks who are not employed. And so how do we find the right people and to keep them on for a number of years so that way our industry can grow? And if we're working with an innovative product, who are partners that we could co-locate with and do some circular manufacturing work? Is there specific funding that can come along with that? And the answer is yes, those things do exist. I think that it takes a lot of creative thought, and it's not one person or one agency that's like going to silver bullet your business. It can seem scary and daunting because you're running your business. That's your job. It's your enterprise, Well, I don't have the time to navigate a grant or pay a grant writer. That's okay. It doesn't have to be you. There's these other agencies that exist that can leverage that. And I know, at least in Fresno County, our workforce board has a grant writer on staff who takes care of these things and kind of leads the effort on that. Tricky if you're in a locality that doesn't quite have that built out as part of their service, but I don't think it's impossible. And I think what the work of the Forest Business Alliance is doing is gathering these communities of practice up, so that way people can know that they're not alone in trying to go forward with this. And it's good to see CAL FIRE empowering that work happening with funding, so that way folks can build new products and can build new partnerships and work in this larger ecosystem of grants, funding, tax credits, incentives, community college. It's a sector-based partnership that I think we can kind of put forward together. And there's great opportunity for folks who are in private business owners, to step into that ecosystem and say, hey, this is what my family has done for generations. Who are the people who can come here and do this with us? And if I don't know where the funding streams are, somebody's going to know where this is. And maybe we get together and go in on something together. If there's an agency that can bear the load of writing some of this, if there's somebody else, maybe they don't live in this county, but somebody else who can point you in places. That work does take time, and I want to validate that. Time is money, and if you're running a business, that's important. So hopefully the conversations that we start here and continue on forward will help you know good, efficient ways to spend time. These are absolutely people that you want to be talking to get connected to broader ecosystem. I could, talk about this forever in 6 days, but I will also stop talking now.
I just want to elaborate quickly about how you're saying, find someone that can help you. Our logging apprenticeship craft is state registered, and that gives us the opportunity to utilize our grant funds to provide what they call related supplemental instruction. So the training piece of things, whether or not you're local or anywhere in the state of California, and we're also seeking federal registration, so it can be out of state in the near future. In addition, a lot of our employers that have signed on are all private sector. They are locally owned organizations. Their family has been in the business, and they're the ones that are most passionate about providing the necessary training to enter the workforce. And so if you think craft the apprenticeship, we have the ability to write grants. If you think there's an area to partner and expand for both sides, we can always use or explore the idea of having craft as the umbrella for that, because we are state registered. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Cool, thanks everyone. Regine, you have a question, go ahead.
Yeah, this is kind of for the broader group related to the employment sort of payroll offsets. I know for forest businesses, particularly for smaller businesses, but likely even for larger ones, the reimbursement lag for incentive programs and for and also for grant programs, but even for some of the incentive programs can be a challenge. So I was just curious, are your sort of incentive programs streamlined are the processes streamlined, and are they able to kind of minimize that lag time for reimbursement from the state to employers, or could an application to a program for a smaller business be structured in a way that minimizes that lag time, so the business itself doesn't have to maintain or sort of set aside huge cash reserves to make their payroll while they're waiting to receive reimbursement? So that was with NEO employment training
Yes.
panel, any
Yes.
other sort of similar programs. I think I've heard from working with businesses that this can be a hurdle. So just interested in any input you have.
Elise, do you want to jump in and start?
I
with
will. Thanks. Yeah, that's something that we've heard too, and the ways that we address it are with the stacking the funds or putting one behind another. So with the WIOA funds are usually, you're paying for an employee taking time off doing training, and then at the end with the reimbursement model that ETP is using those funds when they come. The other way we recommend for small businesses is joining a multiple employer contract. They get the right to the training part of it, and it's a little bit easier for the wait time while they're applying for a contract directly for themselves, so that they could, just the choo-choo train of funds. I've heard it be referenced for before. But that's, like we've been saying, it takes the planning, takes the strategizing and knowing all the partners in order to put those resources in effect.
And Elise, just kind of a follow-on specific to your program, how does a business know whether they should apply to the single employer sort of part of your program, or seek out the multiple employer?
Well, a general guideline is more than 30 employees. It's generally worth it to apply for a single employer contract. And anything smaller than that, probably more likely worth it to join a multiple employer contract. That's definitely something that myself and Jordan are here for, as the first point of contact is discussing that with the business. There's really a calculation of the number of training hours that they intend to train with and the number of trainees, and multiplying that times the reimbursement rate that we offer, $28 per trainee per hour. And that calculation will equal the amount, whatever it turns out to be, $100,000 $1,000, or it could be as little as, $20,000, and whether it's worth the effort of administering a contract with us will really determine the decision.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'd like to piggyback off what Elise was saying. Your first question as well, with the reimbursement. So the way, without getting too into the weeds, but the way the ETP reimbursement model is the company can apply for an advancement of funds. So once the trainees reach 8 hours of training, we call it a P1, but essentially it's an advancement, and we pay up to 25% of the projected training hours. And then once training is completed, we pay up to 75% of the actual hours. Those two are advancements. And I mean, our contract structure is the company has to meet a retention period, with the trainees. But once you invoice, those are processed within 15 days. So there is, a immediate flow of funds. Generally, I joke that companies, especially new companies contracting with ETP, wants to see that the money's real, right? So that they have that first invoice right away, and they want to make sure the money's real. And then your second question about whether they can go with a mech or a single, if there is an immediate training need, generally the mech is the way to go. We can refer you to a mech that is currently under contract, where an application process may take a couple months. Nina's comment about the state moving a little slow, it's the same here. It has to go through eligibility and things like that. And then also we look at what type of training you want to do. If it's pretty general that maybe a mech is already doing, that's another thing too. And then the last point is just contracting capacity, right? Generally, small businesses, you have enough on your plate where you don't want to administer the contracts, where you can have, a college that's already doing it, have it for you, and you just want to reap the benefits of the training or some training funds. That might be the way to go as well.
Super. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
That's helpful.
Jim, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, I had a question. I want to go back to Erik Meza. Erik, it's kind of related to Vance's question when you began, but I'm curious, what's been the most helpful support you've gotten from any source to get your business up and running and growing, whether that's finance or any training or technical assistance or any kind of support you've applied for or received from nonprofits or government agencies or banks or kind of anywhere? What kind of help have you gotten that's been helpful, the most useful?
I would say, thank you for that question as well. But I would say more than not, it was just very honestly and transparently, trial and error was a main thing of knowing the business itself. And unfortunately, there's some occasions that we prefer to get that advice so that we avoid the mistakes. But I'm third generation in the manufacturing industry. So my grandfather started it in the 80s, his own business, and my father in the 90s. But truthfully, it was through their advice that I was given the information to be able to help manage the business and the employees. So it was more family advice and that type of guidance.
Very interesting.
Any other questions?
If nobody has questions, I have more, but I
Go ahead.
don't want to dominate. I think another hurdle that's sort of emerging forest businesses face is the whole financing puzzle. So, and I think there was a couple of you guys had mentioned connecting with your sort of building upon your local relationships with lenders and others in the finance community. In my experience, what I've seen, at least related to say like wood and biomass infrastructure, is that the projects that are achieving finance have, for lack of a better term, kind of high net worth individuals or kind of like angel investors that are contributing to completing their overall capital stack. So it's just, we still haven't really figured it out yet. And so I'm curious, like within your respective organizations and agencies, how are you able to connect businesses to the private investment community, or to help, or maybe not even that, but more broadly, help them overcome that sort of hurdle? Have you found success, and are there things that businesses should be thinking about as it relates to putting together their financing plan and connecting with the investment community?
I'll talk a little bit about this. I know for us, part of the work that our EDC has been doing is with a Harvard Business School model called impact accounting. We've been tying this to our scorecard. Essentially, when we've got businesses that want to locate here or have been set up here, and they're looking to attract additional capital, we can use this impact accounting finance model to see not just how much, dollars and cents are being made by this industry, but, how many jobs are being created? What is the wage of those jobs? Are these good jobs that have paid time off and a trajectory for career growth? We're able to apply that model then to the business and to show with, this is a high value business that's not just doing economic good, but community good at the same time. And we've been able to attract additional private investment based on that Harvard Business School model. I would be happy to share the case study that we have. We've got a processing, it's juice that they do out in Fowler on the east side. So not exactly woody biomass, but other natural occurring things that we've worked with to talk about how this kind of industry can be good, not just for, business owners, but for community as well. So yes, that's a Harvard Business School. It's called Impact Accounting. Please talk to me offline. I would love to share more about how that works. And the company specifically is called Sierra Agra out in Fowler.
Super. So, for instance, a business could go to your EDC and work with you to run the model for their business. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing. There's, I think, 4 or 5. It's a new kind of initiative for us, but I think that's the way we want to move things forward. Showing that, just because we're going to put in a sawmill somewhere, we're going to put something in there. There's, I think, a fear that can happen sometimes that this is going to be highly pollutant and that this is going to be terrible for us. I think if we can flip the script on that and show that, you can have folks who are in this industry in your backyard that are not contributing to lower health outcomes. And especially, I think, with forest business, we can tie this into larger things about climate resiliency and about making this a better and safer California for everybody. So, yes.
Erik, you have a question.
Yeah, we're trying to set up a business model that is actually a nonprofit business model, but we want to benefit forest health projects with any money that we gain from setting up basically a structure around timber processing facility. And I was just wondering if there's any similar models out there, or if there's any barriers to doing that kind of thing. If anybody has any insights on that.
Which county are you based out of?
We're in Mendocino County.
In Mendocino, okay.
And what do you mean by timber processing? That's a broad term.
Well, we want to bring logs 6 to 14 inches diameter in, and they will be peeled by a specialized pressure washing peeling machine, and then they'll be kiln dried so that there's no checking, and then graded with
so a small operation. Okay.
Yeah, it's a structural round timber operation.
Right. Can you use forest fire residuals as part of this, or no?
No, it's mostly
It's
from
virgin timber.
yeah, it's going to be from forest health projects or thinning projects. But anything that's been through a forest fire is already probably not cured properly. We're trying to address the natural building market mostly, and people are wanting interior quality logs.
Right. Remodel and whatever. But okay.
And Erik, can you just, I'm sorry, I was reading in the chat, can you just repeat, I caught the last part of the conversation there, but what the specific question?
Yeah, the main point I was trying to bring up is we're trying to set up as